It's a beautiful fall morning here on the property, and we are going to be working on installing our garage door trim. My first job is to sand these 2x4s and then paint them white. But before we get started, I just need to show you these beautiful fall colors on our property. It's seriously so pretty. I can't wait to look out our windows and just be staring at the trees. It's so beautiful. Alex built this table out of pallets and scrap wood in about 10 minutes. It's really nice because it allows me to do 10 pieces of wood at once rather than just the 5. So I already have my first set sanded and primed, and then moving over to these to start sanding.
So I did the 8x8 door on the back side of the house first. I didn't bother filming it because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. So I used the back door as my learning trial, and now I'm onto the fronts. The back one turned out great, I thought, and I'm gonna basically copy the same technique here on the front. This is my first time doing anything substantial with sheet metal, so I'm doing a little bit of learning as I'm going there, but it's not too bad, and I think it's turning out fine. I did change course from our original plan. I was gonna get some 3/4 inch AZEK and use that on the outside. So we built these garage door openings 1.5 inches wider than they should be, thinking about that finish trim. But when I was ordering my roof sheet metal, I was getting soffit and fascia at the same time, and I thought I should just get a couple extra pieces for the garage door. It's a lot less expensive than the PVC trim board. With 3 full-size doors, it was actually like several $100 savings. So I went with the sheet metal. I used some scrap subfloor sheets that I ripped down as filler board basically to fur out to my 3/4 inch. And then at the bottom here where it's susceptible to wicking moisture up, I coated it in Zip Liquid Flash so that any water that might get in here can just run down and run out the bottom of the foundation here without wicking moisture up in. I figured it wouldn't be a bad idea to throw some 6-inch zip tape here at the bottom too, since this is the most susceptible to water. And now I'm ready to cut my metal. So I measured down all the way from the top edge of the rough opening here, and then also down to here, because this is a sloped apron to let water drain out here. And there's a 3/4 inch difference in height here. So I'm gonna go cut that off of the bottom piece of metal. I scribed that 3/4 inch slope here, and now I'll use my handy Harbor Freight offset shears here to cut this. Honestly, they work pretty darn good for being, I think this was like $8 or something. Coming up to the other end, I know my measurement on the long edge up to the very top of the rough opening was 7'6" 3/4. I want to leave a small air gap at the bottom edge of this piece of trim. So I'm going to come back just 1/4 inch, so 7'6" 1/2. I'm going to mark a line here to bend this. So I'm going to snip this little edge and then bend along this so that we have a clean bent corner there up at the top. I'm going to load this thing up in the sheet metal brake and bend it. That's the plan, and you're going to help lift the other end up.
That doesn't look very straight. I mean, your line looks straight.
Actually, the line's not that straight.
Is that a crayon?
It's a pencil, sweetie. It's a pencil.
It almost looks like a crayon.
All right, so now I'm going to pick this up, and you lift that up at the same time. You ready? So we'll put our 90-degree bend in. Just go up till it hits the ceiling. Almost. So this will crease it. All right, now let it go. Now I'll kind of finish it off with the hand bender. Now let's test fit it. Just a hair tight at the bottom, so I'm going to scribe that to the slope of the garage floor and trim it. I'm going to use this little ruler as a scribe guide. I'll take that. That looks really good. The liquid flash is like exactly in the right spot too. There's about 1/16 to an 1/8 inch gap there. That'll let any water drip out, but also still looks pretty good. I really like this metal because it's got this protective plastic coating that comes with it. This metal's from McElroy. They're headquartered out of Louisiana. And the protective coating is great because you can work with it and write on it. Once it's installed, peel the metal off and you're good to go. Now I'm gonna drill some nail holes every 2 foot. I'm gonna use roofing nails for these. And I feel like it tends to oil can the metal less if you're not trying to puncture it with a nail, and rather you just have a nice clean hole for the nail to start out in. Before I put this up, I'm gonna trim these hems off, this little short fold over piece. I'm gonna have the top piece of trim overlapping this, which is also gonna have a hem on it. And these hems do add about 1/8 of an inch to the thickness. So having those two pieces overlapped will be a little bit too much for the trim on the inside. So by trimming these off, I essentially only have one hem worth of thickness there. I'm gonna peel the plastic off just around where my nailing flange is here before I get it up there. Stuff is pretty tough to get off. That's kind of a pain. In fact, I'm gonna leave the main plastic on until the garage door guys are done because I don't want them scratching it up either. All right, we're ready to fasten. Got my clamp there, holding it up off the ground. And I'll be using 1¼ inch galvanized roofing nails to go through each of my pre-drilled holes. Now let's talk through what's gonna go on here at the inside. This is a 7¼ inch deep piece of metal here, so there's some open space here. And what we're gonna do is gonna put a 2x4 right up against the wall, just like that, and that is what our garage door is gonna actually fasten to. But the trim comes basically right up to the edge of that 2x4 or close to it. And then once the door is in, a piece of stop molding will go on this side, which will have that little flap on it that seals against the garage door. And our drywall will then butt right up to this 2x4. I'm not gonna use this ugly looking 2x4. Let's check out what Elena's up to over here. Hello. We have a professional painter here who has so kindly sanded down all these nice 2x4s and is priming them currently, ready for installation. We have a bunch of 2x4s for the jambs and the headers, and then we have these little 2x6 mounting pads. This has got to go up in the center above each header for the spring mount pad. And rinse and repeat for the left jam here, although I did improve my technique there with the cut up at the top. I cut that one at a 45, so when we put the top piece in, it will overlap. Unlike my first side here with just a square cut, there's gonna be basically a small little line. I'll show you what I'm talking about when we get the top piece on. You can see how that overlaps a little bit better in comparison to there where there's like a little gap there. It doesn't really matter either way. I'll be putting AZEK on top of it, but just a nice little detail. So I'm about to put my jam on the inside here, but before I do that, I want to seal up the gap under here. I like that there's an air gap here because any water can drain down and out. That's the secret to longevity for any wall assembly, but I don't want to let any critters in here. So I have some low expansion foam and I'm just gonna seal this gap about halfway. Oh, shot out underneath. Then I'm putting in a scrap of OSB, and that's what my 2x4 is gonna rest on top of, just so that when I have it all fastened in, I'm gonna take this out and there will be an air gap underneath the 2x4. That way it can't wick any moisture from the concrete.
We started filling screw holes with caulk, but quickly realized this was not the right product. Bondo wood filler worked a lot better. We followed this up with 2 coats of paint, and then we were ready for a door.
Fast forward a few weeks, our garage doors are actually installed now. I forgot to get kind of the after footage of the trim before the doors went in. So I'm gonna give you a sneak peek here. The door tracks are on so you can actually see how well it integrates with the tracks. And in short, I'm really pleased with how it all turned out. It's just a nice clean look with the weather stripping nailed on. We used brown stainless trim nails in this vinyl weather stripping that came with the door. Of course, we pre-drilled through the steel before we drove those nails in so it didn't oil can up or anything. On the outside, we will have our AZEK 5/4 trim boards that are gonna go around the perimeter. But as far as the door jambs go, the steel turned out really, really nicely. Our next video will feature our garage doors, how they were installed and how they turned out.
Spoiler alert, they are wood grain finish on a steel door and they look absolutely amazing. We can't wait to show you, so make sure that you're subscribed to our channel and click that notification button so that you know when the video is posted.
Thanks again for watching. We'll see you on the next one.